Alright, right off the bat I'm going to start off with the TLDW, or Too Lazy Didn't Watch. As I know a lot of people don't want to watch a 20-minute video of my opinions, I appreciate that, and I'm going to tell you immediately what I feel each game is catered to. First we got Nether. It's a great game with a lot of promise. I feel the game is targeted to people new to the survival genre. If you don't like a lot of downtime, enjoy nice graphics, then this one is probably for you. Next we have Rust. Now this is what I would consider as the true survival experience. If you are a fan of high risk and high reward situations, this is the game for you. It also has a great crafting tool that is simple but complex at the same time. The simple addition to construction of player-made housing adds a whole lot to the survival experience. And then we have DayZ. Now I won't lie, DayZ is a bit of a letdown for me and a lot of people actually. It is in its early stages, obviously, as all these games are, but with the poor optimization and nothing really innovative coming to the game, it's just a simple improvement over the mod, and you can't really say it's an improvement currently anyways because they have gotten rid of a lot as well. But if you enjoy DayZ and don't care much about change, then DayZ Standalone is still a good game. Now let's keep in mind when I'm overlooking these games, every one of them are in early access, meaning essentially they are alpha. But because a lot of people are interested in buying one of these, I thought it would be a good idea to overview them in their current pros and cons, because they're all for sale anyways. Keep in mind these games will be changing and this list is susceptible to a lot of change, but the current date for this comparison is December 28th, 2013. So we're going to start off with Nether. Now the goods of Nether are as followed. Although Nether is the smallest map of all three, it is by far the most appetizing for me. It feels like a real city, and the sense of always being seen from somewhere is very evident. One thing I hated about DayZ is never feeling a sense of surprise. You know where everyone is, you know the common sniper spots and the common loot zones. In Nether, people can be anywhere. Nether is also the most visually pleasing. Now that's not saying much considering your competition is DayZ and Rust, but still, that is a plus. I feel like the world has really seen some turmoil. There is overgrowth everywhere and it really gives you a sense of decay and loss of hope for the people in the atmosphere. The graphics are on par with what I would consider current gen, but I feel the models, especially for the large buildings, could use a lot of work. There's not much inside them, it's pretty much just a square box with some stairs and a few chairs thrown in. But overall, I feel graphically Nether is a very nice game. Nether has a level up system, and although very buggy, I currently really enjoy it. In other games besides item loss, there's no real punishment for dying. In Nether, the punishment is less about items and more about character progression. Risk is a good thing, and implementing ways of feeling that risk in a survival game is always a good idea. If instant action is your thing, Nether definitely is your game of choice. There's not much downtime, but at times I feel like that sense of risk and adrenaline is gone because something is happening so often. Sometimes it's good to have some downtime, especially in a survival game, just to add to the atmosphere. Nether has also implemented a kind of mini quest system that essentially you have to transfer packages from one zone to another. When you arrive with that package, if you survive, you get a little bit of a reward, so it's kind of a nice thing to add just to add a bit more to the game besides killing each other. And the final thing I really enjoy about Nether is Nether, which are the zombies of the game. They're not really zombies, they're actually like alien beings, but they are an actual threat. Each species has its own unique traits, and you actually have to have some strategy when killing them. Also, there is a blood meter, which essentially when you kill someone, you are added blood to you, and Nether become more attracted to you. So you have to, there's a kind of a punishment for mindless PvPing. You kind of have to make that decision, do I really want to attract more Nether to me for this guy's loot? So it really just gives a punishment for killing noobs and mindless killing. I think that's a huge deal, and it definitely helps in the overall gameplay. Now we're going to go on to the bads of Nether, and the first one being a global inventory. I'm worried that this is going to be War Z all over again, where it's stash and grab. All you have to worry about is getting your bank up, and then you can spend all your bank to kill anybody you want. Nether has implemented this, but thankfully the bank isn't very big. You can put in maybe a few guns, a little bit of ammo, and some food, But still, this is a survival-based game. When you die, you should start from square one. This is not the way a survival game is supposed to be played, in my opinion. If you like the idea of global inventory, Nether has it. It also has safe zones. So that adds another problem. There's people that can camp the safe zones, kill people coming into the safe zones. It definitely adds some risk, but it's kind of a sketchy gameplay because once you walk into that safe zone, you're safe. So you could just camp on the edge and kill people that are trying to get in there. I'm not a fan of it. A lot of people aren't, so that is definitely a big loss to Nether for me personally. The next bad is real money transactions. Although most of the items are cosmetic, there are some items that you can buy for real money that really do give you a bonus in the game. I think there's things like flashbangs, and I know that there's a wing hand glider that you can buy, so you can jump off buildings and fly down. You can buy all these with real world money, and there's also a whole whack of masks and cosmetic items, which I don't really care about, but some people are bothered by that too. But yes, there is real money in the game, but I think most of the items, not sure about all, you can buy with in-game money as well. And the final bad, and maybe it's just my personal experience, but there's an extremely low sense of community in the game. I can't really pinpoint why, but it feels way more unsocial than the other two games. I've never really had a chance to make peace with someone I've seen in the game. It's pretty much shoot before question. Everyone is fighting each other, and maybe it's because it's so easy to obtain guns that people just automatically assume you're going to shoot them. I don't really like that. I like having some sort of, peace in the community. Nether doesn't have it at all, at least from what I've seen. Now let's go on to Rust. Now the goods of Rust, the biggest one being, in my opinion, crafting. It just brings so much more to the game. Obviously a survival game is great, but when you can build a house and essentially an empire if you wanted to, it just adds that much more risk. I mean, people breaking down your door, going into your house and looting all your inventory, that is so cool. I love... The thing about survival games is risk. That is what you want in them, and crafting really brings a lot more to that. I mean, in DayZ you lose your gun and you lose a bit of materials. In Rust you can lose literally days of building a house, or weeks or months, and I really enjoy that. Next on the list of goods is nudity. In Rust you start out as nude, and how can that be a good thing? Well, in my opinion it really is, because it really distinguishes noobs from people who are an actual threat. And when you see someone who's, noob with a rock running around, generally they aren't going to kill you, or maybe they'll try but they're not going to succeed. That way you can help out noobs. It really adds a sense of community to the game. If you see someone who is nude, you're not going to shoot them right away. It's not worth it, and for the most part, people want to help people anyways, they just don't want to die in the process. That is why I really like nudity in this game. It's easily distinguishable between noobs and good players. Mind you, nothing is stopping people from welding an AK as a nude person, but for the most part, people would rather have armor than that sense of surprise. And the final good about Rust is risk. Bar none, Rust has the biggest sense of risk out of all three of these games. And that is a good thing. That is why these survival games are fun. On most servers, when you log off, your character is put to sleep. He doesn't log out of the game. He is on the ground asleep. He can be killed, and your house can be looted if they have the C4 to blow up your doors. That is just a huge benefit if you enjoy this sense of risk. You never seriously feel safe. You're always worried about logging in if everything's going to be gone, and that is good. I really enjoy that. I think a lot of hardcore survival fans will enjoy that. Now the bads about risk, and first we're going to go to zombies. Zombies are essentially loot bags. They're not really taken as a serious threat. They do drop some good loot, so if you're a fan of that, that's cool, but really, when you put zombies in a game, you want them to be the main aspect of the game. And that's nowhere near in Rust. I mean, they're just sitting there waiting to be killed and looted. That's all they are for, and that is not a good implementation of zombies. That being said, they are planning on removing the zombies soon and adding something else possibly, so hopefully we'll see that in the future. Rust is also lacking weaponry. In terms of melee weapons, you have your rock and you have gathering tools that can be used as a melee weapon. There's nothing else, there's no real swords or anything. So really you just have pickaxes and axes. And then we go on to guns. There's not much of a choice. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I can say it's probably a lot less than Nether. But what's good about that too is there is weapon attachments and mods. So you can essentially equip a weapon in the way you want. You can add red dots, you can add flashlights, you can add suppressors, all that good stuff. So that really does change a weapon a lot, but still, at the end of the day, there isn't many weapons to choose from. And finally, the map is very, very bland. It's, even in terms of DayZ comparisons, there's not much to it. Essentially, there's wilderness, roads, and rad zones. That's all you're going to see. And I think why they did that is because the developer wants the communities to build their own, little civilizations around the map. Because there is such an emphasis on building, you can do that, but with the current layout of how housing is built, they're not that fancy. They're useful. They're very, very useful. I mean, they work as a house, but to look at, they're not that visually pleasing. And finally, we have DayZ. Now, the goods of DayZ, probably the most important one to me personally, and probably a lot of people will disagree with this, but it's the small things. DayZ has made a strong emphasis on the small things with this standalone. There are things you won't normally think about, but can really add to the atmosphere of the game. Simple things like needing a can opener to open a can, or risk losing most of its contents if you decide to open it with something like an axe. You can also do things like ripping off your shirt to make bandages, but that also risks you becoming cold because you ripped your shirt off. These things really add to the game. It's really fun. It's a brilliant idea. I like the idea of multi-use things like a shirt being used as a bandage. Very cool and very fun. Now, another arguably good thing is the extremely large map. Trinaris is a huge map. Let's just say that straight off the bat. So big, most people avoid the majority of it and simply stick to the coastline. It's a map people are used to from the DayZ mod, and I think updating that map was a smart move so people are not totally lost from the start. Personally, for my preference, this map is far too big, but I acknowledge that people enjoy that. They enjoy the vastness of it, and that is why I'm making it a pro. And the final pro is loot placement. I know this doesn't sound very important, but after playing survival game after survival game for so long, I'm sick of seeing loot on the ground in a nice little pile that you can just pick up and leave that house. In DayZ, they have actually added somewhat unique loot placements. There are still ground spawns at times, but still you can find, like, for example, a tuna can in a kitchen on a counter, or a pair of jeans on a dresser. And that really adds to the atmosphere of the game. DayZ has made a huge improvement on adding to the atmosphere, and I really appreciate that. I don't like finding jeans at a military base, for example. I like finding jeans in a house on a dresser. And I hope they keep improving on this because it really adds to the gameplay. And now let's go on to the bads of DayZ, and the main one being the Arma engine. I think that's probably the main one for most people. Now, this engine works great for strategy simulation games like Arma, but I feel that the root of all evil in terms of the DayZ experience is from this engine. It is clunky, it is poorly optimized, it just doesn't work with zombies and survival in mind. It's not made for that, so why try and mold a game around it? I think if they changed it to a different engine like the Unreal Engine or something along those lines, it would have been a much better experience. Another bad is content. Now, the new buildings are great for the most part. There are a lot of new enterable buildings and a lot of small features like writing notes, clothing, and loads of unique food choices now. But at its core, this is a survival experience, and currently there are only 3 guns implemented and a handful of melee weapons. I'm sorry, but when you have the same amount of colored pens as you do gun choice, maybe your priorities lie in the wrong areas. And another bad that was also good is the map. Some will disagree with me, some will agree, but I find the map to be personally extremely bland. On paper, a huge map with towns to explore sounds great, but when you get into the game and you're running for 40 minutes just trying to find your friend, only to be sniped and do that process all over again, it will leave a very stale taste in your mouth. At least with the DayZ mod, you had vehicles which could quickly transport you around the map. As it currently is, I feel, on foot, the map is far too vast and far too open to be an enjoyable experience. And finally, we have zombies. They are not a threat, they are simply a nuisance. And when you have a game revolving around zombie survival, you do not want that. You want them to be part of the game. You want them to be a good part of the game. Nobody I don't know anybody anyways who likes the zombies in Arma, or sorry, not Arma, DayZ. But they're not good. They just stand there and you shoot them and you try to avoid them, but they're not a huge risk either, so you don't really worry about avoiding them. You just simply kite them around. That is not a good implementation of zombies. So that's my quick overview of each game. I've played about 5+ hours of each game. I own all 3 of them, so I thought it would be a good idea to me do my opinions. I did do my opinions when there was DayZ versus WarZ, and I got a lot of hate for that. I'll probably get a lot of hate for this as well. That's okay, it's no big deal to me. But yeah, I already gave you the TLDW, but I'll just go overview it again. Nether, if you are someone who likes FPSs and instant action type games, Nether is definitely for you. It's got great graphics, it's got a beautiful landscape, not a very huge map, but overall it's a very good map, and it's just a fun experience, and it doesn't take a lot of time to get to that fun experience like the other 2 games. So Nether is definitely the game choice if you want a quick, enjoyable gameplay. And then we got Rust, which is a very good creative game. There's a lot of crafting, there's a lot of survival sense, there's a lot of risk. Overall, it's a very fun game, and I've put over 30 hours into it already. I absolutely love the game. If you're a fan of high-risk games like Darkfall, like Eve, high PvP games, definitely Rust is something for you to try. It is very fun, and it's a very good experience thus far. Now, DayZ, for me personally, a bit of a letdown. I really wouldn't suggest it to anybody yet. Obviously, it's in early development. Something may change. But, I guess the only person I would suggest DayZ to currently is someone who is a huge fan of the mod. It's essentially an upgraded version of the mod. So if you like that, go ahead and buy some DayZ and enjoy the new features. And the old ones once they decide to add them again. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my my overview of all these games. If they aren't on my channel already, there will be some soon. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.